My name is William Roach Davies. Roach is spelled the Pembrokeshire way, R-O-C-H. The Temple of Peace is a building which inspires a lot of people to do inspirational work. It was a very good and symbolic headquarters for the United Nations. And it seemed a very good challenge for this body, which of course the League of Nations Union had existed before that in the earlier days, where that had sort of gone out of existence with the war ended. So the Welsh Centre for International Affairs gave it a sort of national name, which inspired a lot of people. The main theme at that time was peace. The world had had 2 wars, and I think there was an attempt to sow the seeds of peace in the minds of men. I think it was doing some of the humanitarian work, which of course the United Nations did as well, but also the Welsh Centre did. Doing the humanitarian work attracted a lot of interest. And the main thing that was done was, say, a couple of years later, the work of the Freedom from Hunger campaign, which attracted an awful lot of interest. And it was sort of working in a sense, in one sense, through the United Nations to, well, as orator said, save the world from hunger, poverty, disease and ignorance, and campaigns were started in many countries. A lot of funds over the years came into the Freedom from Hunger campaign. The Freedom from Hunger campaign in the building was in a sense a separate body. There was a woman called Mrs. J.T. Morgan who inherited a large store in Swansea. You might have heard of her, and others. Mrs. Morgan was a stalwart in the United Nations Association as well, and created a very flourishing ladies' committee which helped with the campaign. The Wales Freedom from Hunger campaign and the work at the Temple of Peace supported what that campaign was doing, and many sort of very senior people came down to see what was going on here. Well, in those years it was necessary, I think, to establish an organization which was a sound organization and which attracted the resources to take over, to organize these campaigns. And of course there were many other things going on in the centre. We had each October the Welsh Centre lecture, and many very distinguished people from all walks of life came. And say we had people like Edward Heath here and others, and it was, the time seemed to be ripe to have this sort of project taking place, because it aroused very considerable interest. It was something that people could feel rather more perhaps than some other things. They felt that if there was true peace, people couldn't pass their days being hungry and all that sort of thing. And it was a part of the general awareness to try to create a world which was, shall I say, suitable for its inhabitants to occupy. And it worked, I think. The mid-80s saw visits by world statesmen. The Secretary General of the United Nations, Senior Perez de Cuellar, toured the Welsh Centre at the Temple of Peace. Well, he was a very interesting man to meet, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and of course he inspired a lot of people who were in the hall, who felt it was a privilege that the world's top sort of statesmen, as it was, came to our headquarters in Cardiff. You know, for a time it looked as if perhaps the centre wouldn't survive Lord Davies's ideal, because the resources were quite difficult to obtain in the early days. We were quite a small organisation until for some time. I remember the splendid work that people were doing and the efforts they made to carry it out, and I think a lot were conscious of the fact that the war hadn't long ended when, in 1945, and we were then, say, 10 years or so further on, and people hoped that some sort of legacy would come from all the suffering. And I think that Lord Davies had the idea from the beginning that, that if people had responsibility for saving others from hunger, poverty, disease and ignorance, it's a sort of a good society that attempts these sort of tasks.